Wait, so I can do that, and then I need to go right here, right away. How do I go here?
Welcome, everybody. We're going to give everybody a couple minutes to hop on the call here, but we're going to get this thing going in just a few minutes. Hang tight, and office hours are about to start. Hey, welcome, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours. My name is John Kleinbell. I'm director of music here at Catch the Moon. If you haven't heard me speak before, I'm sure at some point I'm going to get to meet over Zoom every single one of you. And this is just going to be basically what Office Hours is for anybody who doesn't know, which is probably some of you, if you didn't read the description of what it is. We have this open every single week. It's a scheduled call that we do every week to answer any and all questions that you have about like just licensing in general. I'm happy to share any insight that I have about production or songwriting. Happy to answer any questions that I can to the best of my abilities about like just kind of logistical stuff with the way that the course works. If you have questions about that, I know there probably are a few of those because we just launched this, and happy to entertain those questions as well. And I'll just basically open the floor here now. If you want to ask a question, you can just ask it in the chat. I'll answer stuff that's in the chat. I'll answer stuff that if you want to raise your hand, there's like a way to virtually raise your hand. I think you have to click under more, and then it gives you the little like icon, and then I'll see that you have your hand raised, and I can unmute you to ask a question if you'd rather just like hop on and ask a question. But hey, different hat today. Who's the last Jedi? Yeah, different hat. I'm a big hat guy. So this is actually a Hearthstone hat. I don't know if anybody plays Blizzard games, but this is it's like a Magic the Gathering style card game that's kind of watered down for Magic the Gathering, but it's pretty fun. All right, so I'm just gonna start answering some questions here. How many sets of speakers do you check your mix through when you're mixing a song? That's a good question. I have, so you can't really see because the webcam's like actually on my iMac, but to the sides here, I have my studio monitors. I got a pair of Neumanns, and then I've got a pair of baritones, which are like, they're like these like 70s mono speakers. Like they're kind of knockoffs of like speakers that were used back in the 70s, sometimes to just check mono mixes. I actually have like two of them set up here. So it's kind of like I get like, and I have a switcher. So when I'm listening to mixes, I'll be doing a number of different things. I'll be like listening through the main monitors. I'll be switching to the kind of like the crappier speakers. I don't do a ton of mixing in this room anymore though. I'm actually, this studio, the home studio setup is kind of a recent development for me. I wouldn't probably mix in here just because it's like I have a 25-foot cathedral ceiling in here. It's not exactly a treated room. I do the mixing that I do in here, I do in headphones. So that's another thing. But in the other studio, it's same situation. Have like high quality monitors. Then I'll have like stuff that there's stuff that you can switch to, and then use headphones. So I'll swap between those all the time. When I'm mixing stuff too, it's not just about like what you're listening through. I'll listen through I'll put it on my phone. I'll listen to it on my phone. I'll listen to it through earbuds. I'll also just like put it on in my truck. Actually, like getting a good, the truck is a good place to get a feel for like bass. Because I know if the bass is going to translate, people tend to have like their bass a little hotter in vehicles. So, I'll tend to like just get a little more information on my mix if I take it into the truck and listen to it there. I have a mono speaker, like Bluetooth speaker, that's a pretty high quality one downstairs in my bedroom. I'll listen to it on there. So to answer your question, I listen to the songs that I mix on like a lot of different places. I don't do it with like systematically with everything on every mix. But typically the things I'll definitely be doing is I'll constantly be like A-Bing, headphones, monitors. I'll also be doing like there's other things that are important to do with that as well, as like go to mono, take out all the stereo information and just see what it sounds like mono. Getting something to sound good mono is really important because that's what this is going to translate for. So this is a mono source right here, and people play music off their phones all the time. So you want to make sure that your mix translates there. Super important. And it also is just like an indication of a good mix if it sounds good mono. And then I'm also listening at different volumes, which can give you a lot of different information too. So listening to stuff really quiet, then listening to it cranked up. So that's kind of my style when I'm mixing something. I'll A/B bunch of different stuff, different environments and stuff. Let's see. You were talking about investing in equipment for a home studio. I'm a vocalist writer, which, by the way, I'm going to make a note about that. I said I was going to share an article that I think is really helpful for that. So I'm going to just make a note of that real quick. Cool. So don't forget that. You were talking about investing in equipment for a home studio. I'm a vocalist writer. I have a computer, basic audio interface, and SM58. Making my living as a performing musician, so not flush with cash, but want to invest in my future and willing to take on some debt. Do you think it's more economical, sensible to do my vocal takes in a studio with a producer or invest in a home studio? So my thoughts on things, if to get an upgrade from your 50, which 58's a good mic, by the way. People want to trash, like I track vocals, not all the time through a 58, but it depends on the kind of music. But is it going to have the same fidelity that an 87 is going to, or like, I think an SM7B is going to be a better mic for some applications, but you need a lot of juice to run an SM7B. So it's like every microphone is going to have its own pros and cons. A 58 is not a bad mic for some types of music. But I feel like if you're going to be tracking your own vocals, there's a lot that goes into it. There's the equipment of it, but there's also the expertise of being able to engineer your own stuff and knowing like how to use proper microphone technique. As far as like economical, sensible to do your vocal takes in a studio with a producer, it really just depends on like how the relationship you have with the producer, what the rate is. If it's like a huge notch up from what you could be tracking at home. If it's like more efficient for you to work with a vocal engineer, I would say by all means, it's better to hire somebody who's like really good at it than to take on the responsibilities of becoming a vocal engineer. And if you've never recorded yourself or recorded anybody else, it can be a little tricky. Just getting your stuff, your ability as a producer, because you become a producer, you got to get your production skills up to a certain level or else it's not going to compete. So I would think that you would, but at the same time, I do want to acknowledge that anybody who's a really good vocalist, it's really advantageous to have your own setup and to have a setup where you can send vocals that are of high quality to the people you're collabing with. Because I do it all the time. I know other vocalists, session vocalists who have their own setups, and it's a big thing, So, but to give you an idea as to like what investment it would take to kind of get you up to like the next level with something like that, your basic audio interface, I would assume would be something like a Scarlett 2i2 or something like that, something on the like $99 to like maybe $250 or something like that range. Like a pretty good step up from that would be like getting an Apogee. I think it's called the Duet. Apogee makes a small one that's high quality, and Apollo makes a twin, which is a good pre. It's a good pre. It also includes some plugins that are really helpful. The UAD stuff is great. So that would be like the first investment that you would want to make, maybe, is like in a better A to D converter, and it also has a pre built into it. So your pre and your converter are kind of two of the most important things. And then you would want to like upgrade your microphone if you could. So, you know, as far as like upgrading your interface to something that's like pro grade, you know, from like, could you get a pro vocal from like a 2i2? Maybe. I don't know. I've never really used it often. I did have one for like 6 months, and the couple times I tried using it, I was like, this is not, it's not working for what I need it to do. So, you know, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that, is that like, you know, making an investment in an interface might be good, a higher quality interface, because it's going to have better converters. It's going to have better quality pre in it. And as I'm not sure what Apogee's deal is, if they have plugins that are bundled in, but UAD usually comes with some type of plugin bundle, and their plugins are like top notch. I have an Apollo Quad here at home, which is really overkill for I don't really need like all the channels that it has, but I've got like a ton of really good high end plugins. Many of them just kind of came with the system. There's a bundle that comes with it that I think comes with like a LA2A and like comes with 1176. By the way, these are numbers of different pieces of hardware. If it goes over anybody's head, I apologize, but it's just techno producer speak. But yeah, that's a good one. Now, as far as like the microphone itself, you know, any large diaphragm condenser might be a better choice than using a 58. But there are a lot of really cheap large diaphragm condensers that aren't that good. So yeah, but starting to steadily make the upgrade, you're gonna know if it hits, if your stuff is up to snuff pretty quickly when you start tracking with it. If the vocals really aren't sounding the way that you want them to sound with your current setup, you know, there's a certain amount of your expertise with the equipment that will help with that, but there's also some limitations with certain pieces of equipment, and as well, certain vocals just sound better on certain types of microphones and different styles of music. So there's a few options. I mean, obviously, if you got something like I think a 414 or 414 would probably be good, an AKG. I think that's the model number. It might be a 214 or a 414, but those are good. Those don't run too much. Those are a little bit under $1,000. But that would be like a serious level, like microphone. TLM 102 Neumann, maybe, TLM 103. I think those are also, you can get those for under $1,000 used. Are for certain vocalists are going to be really good vocal mics. So if you're looking as far as like getting a vocal setup as an investment in something that you're going to be using for, you know, the next 10 or 15 years, you know, a good quality microphone, if you take care of it, isn't going to lose value. That's like the nice thing about like making an investment in like something like a Neumann or something like that. Like I have an 87 over here from the early 70s that's never going to lose value. It's just like certain quality microphones, they don't, it's an investment, but it's also, in the terms of like music stuff, it's actually a pretty wise investment sometimes with certain brands, because they have a reputation for quality, and you're not going to really lose out much if you end up finding it's not exactly your cup of tea, or you don't use it enough or whatever. You can sell it and not take much of a hit if a hit at all. So that's a little bit about that. I think really whether it's like the best for you to invest in, I wouldn't encourage anybody to go into a huge amount of debt over anything. But that's just me. But if you wanted to make an investment in like a good vocal setup, you probably don't want to go super cheap on it either when you upgrade. You probably want to, if you're going to make an investment, you probably want to upgrade. You want to take a big step up if you can. Because you're probably going to notice a much bigger difference. For example, if you got like a $200 large diaphragm condenser, it might sound better than the 58. It might not. Versus if you had like a higher end microphone, you might notice a huge difference. Also, you might not. So, Well, one thing I will make this suggestion: if you have a local studio near you, I did this when I was first starting out. It was really eye-opening for me. I did what's called a mic shootout. And you can literally book out time at a studio, find a local studio in your area that has like a really good selection of microphones, and ask them that tell them you would like to do a mic shootout. Just like demo a bunch of microphones for a couple hours, have an engineer there, track your vocals, like bring in a track, sing the track over like in like 3 or 4 different kinds of microphones, try them out. Obviously you probably wouldn't if they had like if they have like a U47 Telefunken, why not sing through that? But that's like sometimes could be like a $20,000 microphone. It's like, it might be cool to kind of hear what your voice sounds like that. It was a real thrill. I did my shootout at the Village, and they had like just the most ridiculous mic locker you could imagine. I was singing through like $30,000 microphones, and I ended up buying like a $500 Groove Tubes mic. That it turned out I didn't even use it. But I got a lot of information about I used it a few times, and then I ended up selling it for some. I ended up getting this 87 eventually. I ended up finding a deal on it on Craigslist, and it's one of my favorite pieces of equipment. But finding that microphone for you, it's going to be your own journey. But getting information about what for the style of music you make, take music that's in your style when you go to the mic shootout, see what kind of microphones sound good with that and with your voice if you're the singer. And that's another suggestion that might be helpful to you. And it doesn't really cost that much to do. It's just a couple hours worth of studio time at most studios I would think would be down to do something like that. Most pro ones anyways. Let's see. I've been playing around. I've just started playing around with Audreo. Is a good app to stream to your phone or iPad speakers. It's cool. You can also do the reverse. You can take something that you record on your phone and literally bring it into Pro Tools that way. It's a cool app. Can you share your notes from the 27th session? Yeah, they've actually already been shared. So you just got to go to the post that's in the announcements, and I commented with it. So all the notes are in there in the link to the replay. So those are there. You have mentioned submitting current music. I have a bunch of songs recorded that I wrote the lyrics and melodies, but used tracks off YouTube that I do not own. Is there a place we can submit them to? Hang on a sec. Let me see. I have a bunch of songs recorded that I wrote the lyrics and melodies to, but I used tracks off YouTube that I did not own. So that means you sung melodies and lyrics onto tracks that you don't have the rights to. Well, I don't think there's anywhere you can really submit them to legally because they aren't your songs. In a way, it's your original composition on top of whatever the track is, but I don't think you can really. Are you talking about, if you're talking about to just get feedback on the songwriting of it? For sure we can, and we'll do a little bit of that today. We'll do a little bit of listening, time permitting. We always do that every week with office hours, is have a little bit of fun with listening. For anybody who was on the call last night, we ended up doing a bunch of some wires got crossed with the speaker that we were bringing in, and we just had a big fun listening party. It was great. But we do a little bit of that every week with the office hours too. Time permitting. It seems like there's a lot of questions, so I want to make sure to get to as many of those as I can. But yeah, there will be, usually it's we'll either have people post their link in the thread for the call, or we'll just have people drop it straight into the chat, and I'll just pull them out of the chat. Yeah, SM7B is nice. It's a nice mic. Yeah. The one thing about the SM7B is it's so I don't know if you know this, but it's the mic that Michael Jackson used on a lot of his big albums. It's a great mic. Bono uses it. Actually, Bono sings through a 58. That was what I was going to say about that. I was remembering there was one singer who's uses a 58 all the time. Yeah, this SM7B is a great mic. It's a dynamic though, and it needs a lot of clean juice. So if your preamp sucks, if it's a cheap preamp, you're going to get a lot of you're going to have to crank it up a lot to get enough gain on the mic for it to give you a good signal. And if your preamp isn't good, you're going to get a lot of noise floor with it. So that's the only trick with using the SM7B that I've found. If you have a really high quality pre, then you're going to be fine, and you can use it all day. Let's see. Yeah, Slate's cool. I got friends there. I've never used Slate stuff at all. I don't like the whole like pay $15 a month for plugins, but I hear the Slate stuff's good, and I've heard nothing but good things about the virtual mic. Let's see. Can we write a full song with just a theme in mind, or always with a thought of TV, film, ad, trailer in mind? Well, you kind of like the whole point of this is we're trying to become professionals in this. If the goal is to become professionals in the licensing world, in the music industry, just writing a song with a theme in mind, I don't think you can really do that, because you're not really considering the application of the song to like what it is you're trying to place it to. So that would be like me taking, once again, I hate going back to the didgeridoo, but like writing a song on a didgeridoo about like love because I just feel like it. It's like, where is that going to go? It's like I could sing some stuff about love over like some type of didgeridoo track, but it's probably not going to get used because it's maybe not like in the format or genre of music that's tends to get used a lot. So I think you always kind of have to keep it in mind, but you don't have to let it dictate your creativity either. Like you just kind of have to be in the ballpark, and then it has to be like really high quality and kind of in the ballpark of what is currently being used. So I think that would be like kind of the guidelines there. You don't have to like, once again, it's like the creativity with all this stuff is going to be, you're going to be blown away by how creative you can be once you understand the sandbox, but you do have to kind of be willing to play inside the sandbox a little bit. So that's just part of it. Hopefully that answers that for you. Let's see. Drummers and guitar players should also be ready to record for other people. Yeah, for sure. There's session people in this group. I know there's session vocalists, session drummers, whatever your tracks need. I guarantee you there's somebody that you can hire or somebody that you can, come up with some type of trade with to help elevate your production. Yeah, UAD makes really good stuff. So this is a question from Mike. I've been releasing music as myself for a while. I'd like to make the best of both worlds and write a sync EP that would work as my own as well. Is that okay? Absolutely. I think that artists, it's like I was saying yesterday or the day before, I can't remember exactly. I've done a couple calls since this one, but I was saying on one of those calls that like the artist world and the sync world, they definitely mesh and they meet, and those lines get blurred a lot. So, and also like stuff that's happening as an artist can help land placements. Like if you have something cool and happening as an artist, it can help you land placements because brands can want to affiliate themselves with people that have something going on. So it's something that can help you get a foot in the door, even if it's just like getting a foot in the door with a licensing agent who works with a ton of like artists. There are some licensing agents where they primarily work with like touring artists or just like people that have like a band or just some type of brand and presence with the brand. Not just like, hey, here's my sync project, here's the name of it, but there's no like shows, there's anything like that. There's definitely advantages as an artist, but then there's also, there's a couple of things that can kind of they could be considered to be like, in cases where they want songs that are unreleased, then it kind of like you're kind of, if you release it, then you miss out on some of the placements that you could get if they're looking for stuff that's unreleased. But at the same time, by the time I've certainly had songs where I haven't released it for whatever reason, and then 4 years go by and I couldn't even release it now if I wanted to because it sounds a little dated, just because the music industry changes so fast. So there usually really isn't like a huge downside to releasing songs. Just occasionally there's briefs where they're like, we're looking for stuff that's new or stuff that's about to be released or things like that. They're also sometimes looking for stuff from up and coming artists too. So if this is part of your ability to, if this is part of you as an artist emerging, this could also work in your favor because they're sometimes looking for up and coming talent. Let's see. I've heard it mentioned some places might not want to license it. Yeah. Okay, so that seems like that's a different aspect to it. I've heard it mentioned in some places might not want to license unless it's an exclusive license. Yeah, so that's different. That exclusivity has nothing to do with whether you release it or not. Exclusivity means like you have an exclusive agreement to for somebody to pitch you. or something like that. You know, if you sign a publishing deal with somebody, they might have the exclusive rights to administer your publishing, and in exchange they'll pitch you for stuff, or there's different types of publishing deals that are out there too. But when it comes to exclusive, non-exclusive, typically in the licensing world, it's about like the relationship that you have with whoever is pitching your stuff. So that doesn't really factor into like whether you release it or not. Oh, sweet. The Apogee one. Yeah, I was trying to remember what the name of it was. That's right. There's a microphone in that one. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know. Like the Scarletts and the Focusrites, I feel are like kind of like the prosumer type pre's, but that's just kind of like what they seem to be. I'm sure you could get a really good vocal out of, I mean, hell, Frank Sinatra would sound amazing singing out of one of those, I'm sure. So it's like, you got to take that into consideration. Some of it has to do with like what you're bringing to the table in terms of like the talent and all that stuff too. So yeah, but as far as like, separating like pretty good stuff from like really good sounding stuff, there is a difference that you'll hear as you keep climbing, but you got to start somewhere with this stuff too, and it's a great, if that's what you can afford to use and learn how to engineer your own stuff, I think it's great. I'd love to hear some awesome vocals tracked out of those. Can you speak to instrumental music for licensing? Any differences from pitching vocal songs and that aspect of the sync business in general? So instrumental music is, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Brent, but there's certainly a market for both types of music. And I would say that the vocal music tends to be, there's a lot of stuff that's like used in ads that's vocal, but there's also a ton of stuff that's like instrumental that's used in ads as well. I think it's a big mix. I don't know what the percentages are in terms of like what gets used instrumentally and what gets used vocally, but I'd probably venture to say it's probably pretty even from what I see kind of on a day-to-day basis. And as far as the instrumental part of it, I guess I'm trying to think if there's anything that's like different from licensing vocal music. Not really. I don't think there's a huge difference. I think sometimes with like instrumental stuff, they're looking for specific lengths of cues. That's not really so much what we specialize in as an agency. We don't have a ton of stuff in our library. It's like 15-second cut, 30-second cut down, stuff like that. We don't really have a ton of that kind of stuff in our library. We mostly represent like full songs and instrumentals. And then like stuff that is like, obviously people can edit that. But I think that's when you're talking about libraries, and that's where instrumental stuff can kind of be seen as its own category. And there's different ways to cut down different mixes, and different licensing companies and different libraries have kind of the types of formats that they want in order to pitch just in their libraries. So I think that's like the main thing with it. Obviously, like whether it's a vocal song or it's an instrumental song, it has to be like super high quality. So I don't think anything really changes there. And it also has to kind of be once again, like super in the ballpark of what is working right now. Otherwise it's like, I don't feel like the standards are any different for quality. I would venture to say actually the instrumentals, the quality is maybe even a little higher, just because like it's more exposed. There's less parts maybe. I don't know, but it probably just depends on the genre. I can't get the Scarlett to work, so I'll probably just go into a local studio until I can get help with a home studio. That's probably a good call. Like I said, I don't really feel like those, especially those 2i2s. I tried one out for like 6 months. I had like a smaller home setup back when I had this set up here at another location, and I couldn't get something good out of it. It just wasn't working for me. I ended up actually, like, for a short while, I had an M-Box, which is a little bit older interface, but I had like the kind of the pro version of the M-Box, and that was pretty good. I'm sure there's like some smaller interfaces that are good, but like, if you were looking into those, it's only like a few $100 more to take the jump to like an Apogee or like an Apollo might be a better direction to go. So Mike Brands, I mean, yeah, I think Sheila, Mike Brands, it's a long conversation again, because like there's certainly some some things where you're going to be paying more for certain brands, but they have reputations. But just because a microphone has a certain reputation doesn't mean it's going to sound the best with your voice. So that's why I would strongly suggest going over to a local studio and doing some type of a mic shootout. Or if you have some producer friends who have a couple microphones that you can try out, really it's just like a matter of like finding out like a microphone that works good for your voice if you're the vocalist. If you're not the vocalist and you're more the producer, you just want to get like a good high quality microphone that'll sound good with a bunch of different voices. I mean, something like an 87, you're not going to have any problems with for the most part, but that's going to be a pretty substantial investment. AKG makes, I think it's I don't have one, so I keep forgetting the number on it, but it's like a 214 or a 414. Those are great microphones. Those are all purpose. They're large diaphragm condensers. They're cheaper than an 87, but they're really super high quality. That article that I was going to send out to everybody, that's the microphone that they mentioned. There's also a Mojave that they suggest that I've never used that I think comes in a little cheaper than the AKG. But yeah, I can't remember the model on that microphone. Yeah, the thing that's really cool about the 414 is it's got like this the switch that you can switch to different microphone patterns. So you can switch to make it like omni, you can switch to make it more directional cardioid. There's some different options. I think you can even like do it almost like ribbon style where it's like equal on both sides. You could have two people singing towards each other into the microphone. Could be kind of cool. Yeah, it has different patterns that you can just quickly select from. Okay, I'm researching brands. John, here's a question from John. I'm researching brands for what music they use in ads. Many I have hit so far are using instrumentals. I'm looking for brands that use songs with vocals. Can you run down a quick list of brands that you know vocals? I mean, I know Starbucks it's literally like, you just have to watch a bunch of commercials and you'll see all the time. There's like pretty much all those beer commercials have like lyrics in their songs, unless it's like the one where they're kind of spoofing Game of Thrones. I don't think that one has any of the dilly dilly one. I don't think that one has any vocals with it, but all those like kind of like Chevy kind of commercials, beer Americana ones typically have lyrics. The Levi's jeans kind of things usually have lyrics. McDonald's commercials usually have lyrics, but some of them don't. I think it's, knowing a quick list of brands that does vocals in their ads. I don't really like supervise a lot of ads myself. So it's like, I don't have like a recent like history of like, oh, I remember this and I remember that, but I have like some that I just listed off that I remember from the not too distant past. And it's always like there's tons of stuff that's constantly being used with vocals. So it's for sure. Yeah, TLM 102 is a good one. TLM 103 is good. TLM 103, I did play around with one of those a little bit. I borrowed it and was playing around with tracking female vocalists with it because I'd read somewhere that it's a good vocal mic, especially for like female vocals. And I didn't really love it. Yeah, I didn't really love that microphone, but once again, try it out, see if you like it. If it sounds good to you, then just roll with what works for you. But I guarantee Neumann's are great mics. They don't lose value. If you take care of them, you're going to be able to sell it for pretty close to what you bought it for. Groove tubes, yeah. The Groove tubes, I had one. Those are pretty nice. Yeah, type the equipment options out. I'm gonna post an article that that a guy that I really respect his opinion on this kind of stuff wrote. Yeah, that Slate mic's got to be a pretty good enticing option. I didn't think about that. I've never used the Slate. I hear really good things about it. And it models like it's basically not a virtual modeler for different types of microphones. I'm not sure, but I would imagine it'd be like an 87 modeler or like a 67 or just different. I don't know if it switches out capsules, probably not, but it probably has like a virtual. I think it's like a virtual. It does it virtually. Like it doesn't switch out the hardware on it at all, but it emulates a bunch of different kinds of microphones. Yeah, and this is actually too where like all of you can be a resource to each other. you can show each other, this is what I do with this microphone. I love this microphone because it's good on my voice, or maybe I like using this microphone on this friend of mine's voice a little better. So you all can like share intel on that, and it's going to be just as valuable as anything that I say. So just keep that in mind. Don't spend 10G to equip a tin shed. So totally true. Don't drop 10G on anything right away. That would probably be a smart thing to suggest. Good VST synths. I mean, there's tons of them out there. Serum, Omnisphere, Massive. There's tons of them. It really just depends on what kind of music you're making. You know, for electronic, urban, all that stuff, Serum's like one of the top ones. I use Serum pretty regularly, and I also use Omnisphere a lot. As far as like bass synths, I use Trillion a lot, and there's also some not really synthy kind of stuff. Actually, well, that's more like a piano VST. But yeah, those are some good ones. But there's I'm sure plenty others as well. What was the app you said was good for your phone? Oh, I think it was like I can never remember the name. It's like Ardriello or something like that. Audrio or something. It's like it basically like you can use the recorder to put like you could sing like something into it and literally just drop it straight into Pro Tools or whatever your DAW is. It's pretty cool, and it uses like I think it uses Bluetooth. Can you speak about instrumental music? Okay, so we already answered that one. Here we go. I love all these questions, by the way. This is great. Like this is just super fun for me. I love answering these questions. There's another meeting. No, there's no other meeting. There was a little bit of confusion. We're going to get this all straightened out. It looks like we're going to be doing the noon call. We're going to be doing office hours at noon on Wednesdays. Pretty much that's probably going to be the time. We're going to make an announcement about that, but office hours is going to be a thing that happens like every Wednesday. But it's probably going to be noon every time. So there's no meeting at 2:00. I have many songs owned by me and recorded by studio musicians, very professional sounding. I'd like to submit my songs before I start writing new ones. We will have opportunities to submit music down the road, but right now we're not focused on any of that. That's not really what we that's not what the course is. We're not opening for like open submissions right now for consideration by Catch the Moon right now. But there will be opportunities later on down the line. And there's also going to be opportunities to get feedback from us, not only on this call, but also just through the group. At any time, anybody should feel welcome if they want feedback on their songs. They should feel welcome to just like drop the song in and say, hey, I would love to get some feedback on this song. Feel free to tag me if you want. And when I have a moment, I'll give it a listen, and I'd be happy to give a couple thoughts. So yeah, so just keep that in mind as a resource for you, just in the meantime. But there will be a lot of opportunities for submitting songs. There will especially be opportunities we want you to submit your songs when you're doing the stuff for your EP for sure. Because we actually want to wrap as much of that stuff as we can. If it's stuff that is really what we need, we would love to rep it. So let's see. If we were to purchase an instrumental, would we need a contract for them to sign before pursuing? It really depends on where you get the instrumental from. So there's some places where you can purchase an instrumental and just like do it through the website, and you just sign some type of, when you sign up for an account, you sign up for basically like all of their terms of agreement. So you wouldn't really need a contract in that case. But you also probably wouldn't want to just take somebody's track and sing over it and then submit it. You probably wouldn't want to do that. You'd probably want to work with a producer, some type of arrangement where they build like a really dope instrumental for you, and then you either purchase it from them as a work for hire, or you have some type of a production agreement with them where you're kind of like partners in it. Maybe that reduces your rate that you have to pay them. Maybe they take part of the master and whatever it is that you finish. But there's different ways in which you can kind of navigate that. But you don't need to sign a contract for everything, although it really doesn't. It's a pretty smart idea to get as much as you can in writing, because at the end of the day, if something were to go to court or something like that, or small claims or something like that, you would have the paperwork to be able to say, hey, this was the deal. So if you got like a $15,000 placement and somebody's like, hey, I should be getting like a third of the publishing on that, you'd be like, nope, I have the split sheet. It clearly states that you're a 25% owner, and just kind of clears things up. It's also like, it can be a thing where people can literally forget about stuff too. So that's why it's also important to, even if you're just documenting it for your own use, just you can kind of keep so you can be like, oh yeah, I remember the deal was this. But try to get it signed if you can. Use a split sheet whenever you can. We're going to provide you with a template for that. I'm not a lawyer. We can't like claim the document that we give you as like a template that you could use is going to be totally watertight in your state, wherever you're from. But I'm happy to share the one that I use. No problem. But we'll share that later because it's not something that's super relevant right now. If we were to, let's see, I did a mic shootout and found that I like singing at a 57 over a 58. Yeah, it's interesting, right? It was kind of interesting to me when I realized that a 57 could be used for things other than miking a guitar cab. It was like, I was like, oh, you can sing into it. You can sing directly into it. Because the thing is, it's the same microphone. The 57 and the 58 are the same mic, except for they just have a different cover over the mic. So, but it's in essence, it's the same microphone. But it probably has a little bit different sound just because the 58's got just has a different cover over it. Yeah. And it's totally okay. I would say whatever, trust your ears, whatever sounds good. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it looks crappy. Although sometimes I think for live performance, there's this thing where like, there's some, I'm sure makes a microphone that looks like something that Elvis used to sing out of. There's like certain looks to things. So I think when the live application comes into it, you might find that you want to look a certain way when you're up there on stage singing. And so then maybe some of that can also factor in. I think at the end of the day, you want to sound good over everything else, but I'm a music producer first now. So that's just kind of where I'm coming from with things. But I think like some artists would definitely like want their microphone to look as cool as they look when they're up on stage and have it kind of fit into the vibe that they want to. Actually, like I saw a show, when was it, about a year ago? I was up in Winnipeg and at a folk festival, and I can't remember the name of the band, but it was like 5 guys, and they were all like singing these cool parts. It was all like I think they just had mostly like one microphone, and it was all kind of recorded live, but it was basically like one of those big ones, old ones from like a radio station, and they were all like kind of centered around it. And so the presentation of that was just really cool. So sometimes even the equipment you use on stage can be a part of your experience. That has nothing to do with sync, but I think it's interesting. I think it is part of your image when you're up there, or could potentially. Will you be Dave P? Will you be incorporating the online modules in the courses? So the online modules are bonus. Like that's older material that we are making available to you to scan through, peruse at your leisure. A lot of that material, I'm sure, is still relevant today, and I'm sure you'll find very useful, but we don't actually cover the modules that are in the website. This curriculum that we're teaching, it's a 6-month curriculum. It's not the curriculum that's in the back end of the website. So don't be confused if there's different stuff in the back end. Just trust what we're guiding you through on these calls is what we really want to be having everybody focus on. But if you have additional time and you want to dive into that, there's probably stuff in there that we might not even cover to a certain extent, but we want to make sure that we have those resources because we spent the time like putting that stuff together, and we figured like, why not? It's like we try to throw like a bunch of stuff at you during the 6 months that, we just try to give everything that we have, and we figure we have that from the past. So we want to keep like giving that kind of stuff to you. So that's why that's up there. Let's see. Is there a specific software you use to embed metadata? I use a program. I'm on a Mac, and I use a program called Metadatics, Metadatics. A lot of people use iTunes. I can't stand iTunes. I think it's like really clunky. For Metadatics is like so cool because you can just copy and paste settings really quick. I'm going to type the name of it in here. Metadatics. It's a little clunky. Metadatics. Hang on a sec. Yeah, that's I love that one because you can quickly copy and paste metadata between different songs. It's just it's a breeze. I freaking love it. I think it costs like $25 or something like that. You buy it once and then you'll I don't use anything else. And then if I need to make tweaks, sometimes I'll do it in Disco. So that's my go-to. Let me see. Will we be posting the syllabus? Yeah, we're in the process of just putting that all together in terms of like just how we want to lay that all out to you. We're not sure we want to like lay out the entire 6 months at a time, but we're getting that all together, and we'll be posting what we. Yeah, Winnipeg. Oh, that's sad. Actually, did I meet him? I think I might have met the founder of the Winnipeg Folk Festival, or one of the guys who was like really high up there with it. Because my girlfriend at the time, she was like one of the performers at the folk festival. That's yeah. Well, if it's the same guy, he was a cool dude. Sorry to hear that. Let's see what else we got. We did a mic shootout. What do you think about Reaper for recording? I think as far as DAWs go, you should use whatever you're fast with, because like all these DAWs have similar tools for the most part, and the audio engines on them are all pretty good. I imagine you could get people use Reaper a lot. I imagine you could get a high quality recording using Reaper. I've never used it before. I know people who are really successful producers who use Studio One by PreSonus. I know successful producers who use Logic. I know successful producers who use Ableton in conjunction with other softwares. I'm not sure Ableton's a great place to mix from, but I know that it's a great creation tool. I've never actually like finished a project in Ableton, but I've played around in it enough to get a feel for it. And then I've also helped some people who were creating tracks in Ableton and they couldn't figure out how to mix them because it just didn't seem to make any sense. I still don't understand how someone would mix a song in Ableton. Do we get certification after 6 months? So I don't believe there is a certification. I think the thing is with we could give you a certificate and say you're approved for, you've graduated our program. But I don't think there's any type of like worldwide recognized certification in becoming a licensing professional. So we won't be giving out any, there's no type of certification you receive after completing the course that I'm aware of. Does it do Wave? I use Tag and rename it, and it does. So that's the thing. Waves do not carry metadata. So that's just something you got to know. So wave files do not carry metadata. MP3s do. So if you're wondering why your waves aren't carrying the metadata, that's why. It's because waves just don't do it. Let's see. Studio One's great. Like I said, I know a producer who's like just extremely successful, and she's so quick using it. It's like she uses a tablet in conjunction with her desktop. And what else we got? Cakewalk, I'm sure. Cakewalk has been around forever. I remember when I was in college, I was using a version of Cakewalk. I'm sure it's usable. I don't know anything about it. I haven't used it in a long time, but I don't know too many producers who use that DAW, but you could probably make a professional sounding song out of like just about anything. Figured out who do I remind you of? Oh, AIFF. I didn't know that about AIFF. That's cool. Felix the cat. Fair enough. Yeah, I've always got an idea. Let's see if there's any other questions in the chat that I missed. Mike Brands, we covered that. We covered that. Yeah. So is there a particular category that Catch the Moon music tends to target more in? We definitely land a lot more ads than film and TV stuff, but we do a fair amount of film and TV stuff as well. So, and a lot of the music that we have is kind of upbeat, catchy, fun. But we also are we're looking for all kinds of marketable music. So we're not like, if there's something that's getting used now, chances are we're getting briefs where we need music that's similar. Are there certain things that we need more of? Sure. And over time, we're going to be sharing with you like the types of music that we're looking for, and give you opportunities to submit music to us that kind of meets that, like the needs that we have. So, and we're going to be super excited to hear your stuff too. Cause like I said, I said at the onset of all this, I know for a fact we're going to sign a bunch of songs from people in this course, and it's exciting to me. Is there a place we can? Okay, so we got that, covered that. Sorry, I'm just scanning through here. I want to make sure I try to catch everybody's questions here. Got that one. Got it. Oh, what was the verdict on if a song needs to be released in order to pitch? There is no requirement of it being released to pitch it. You can, but there are some opportunities where they're looking for songs that are unreleased or released in the last like 6 months. So that's where, like, if you have a song from 2014, they're not going to be interested in it because it's been around for like 5 years. Let's see, any else? So I posted the notes from yesterday's call in the replay. So there's a replay in the announcements section, which is at the top of the Facebook group. Everybody here should really become familiar with where the announcements are on the Facebook wall for the group, because that's where we're going to keep like all the recent stuff. We're not going to keep, so for when there's another office hours, we're going to take the one from this week down and we're going to put the new one up. So, and over time we'll be like taking down like the older stuff and we'll be putting the newer stuff up, so that you can kind of keep, because we want to keep the momentum going with this, and we want to keep the stuff that's like that we're going through with it. We want you to kind of keep that in the forefront of your mind, and make sure to catch anything that we're doing recently, especially. So, so we'll be filtering out the announcements over time, but you'll find like all the most recent stuff there. That's where the notes are. They're under the replay for that call. And what else we got? Covered that. Is there a maximum? Oh, here's a good one. Is there a maximum number of stems people would want for placements? This is kind of a tricky thing, because depending on your setup, you ideally would want to print stems for all your songs, because theoretically you might not have the same setup again, and you might, or the producer who produced the tracks and mixed them, you might not be able to hit them up and have them stop what they're doing at the moment and give you the stems that you need in order to pitch for something. So, you know, you might want to have the stems for every song that you work on. But is it something that is like practical in every case? Not really. I think it also depends on who you work with. If you work with a producer who's in the licensing game, it's pretty common practice to be asked for different bounces or different stems. And then it's sometimes easier for the producer to just like for you to hit them up and say, and then they just stop what they're doing for like 20 minutes and print the stems for you. So there's different ways to go about it. You don't necessarily need to have the stems. What you absolutely need to have for the most part is instrumentals. You need to have like the vocal version. It's good to have a TV track, although like you don't really need a TV track. You can have a TV track just in case there's like a narration over that and they don't want the full vocal. You could also have an a cappella version of it. There's different types of mixes you could have, like ones that are down, like the hats are down, like anything that's kind of sizzly is down. You could have a mix that doesn't have any bass stuff in it. There's so many different mixes you could have for different types of applications. You could have a mix of the song with no drums. You can have a mix of the song with no, like I was saying, no hats, no snares. Just because like sometimes that kind of stuff can kind of interfere with like dialogue. But you could also drive yourself crazy coming up with every single mix that somebody could potentially use of your song. So that's why I'm saying, is it practical? Not really sometimes, because you're going to be spending way more time printing mixes than you could just be starting to work on a new song. And you're end up doing a bunch of work that you don't need to do. So that's my thought on stems. It's good to have them. I think like, you know, it's good to have them, but you also will sometimes find that even if you have stems, you might end up finding out that you need a certain type of mix, and you'll still need to get in contact with your producer or be able to do it yourself to print a certain mix that's required or that's asked for. Sometimes it's not a deal breaker. Sometimes it is. What else we got? What if the CD I want to use had much public play? I'm banking on the music from my excellent 2006 album being used. Music is absolutely current. Well, I think it really just all depends on like the type of music that you're talking about. I mean, I haven't heard the music, so I can't really comment on like how current I feel it is, or, you know, what I think, how I think it might be received by folks. I think that you should take in the curriculum that we're teaching, and if it feels like this music that you already have recorded is really like already like hitting all the marks, then, you know, you can certainly submit the songs to us at the time that we're asking for that, or you could feel free to post in the group. You know, if you, like I said, use that as a resource, tag me in the post if you want, and I'll give it a listen. I'll give you my honest take on it, for what it's worth. You know, you might just take any opinion you get on something, take with a grain of salt, and realize no one person has all the answers with everything, but I'm happy to chime in on that. Yeah, you can type Kleinbell in and see everything. Yeah, the search feature in the group is like it's a real godsend. You can use that to find a lot of stuff. All right. What next? If we wanted to get started on the EP now, could we get the list of all the most popular song themes, or we need to wait? I would really strongly suggest waiting to start working on your songs, because we haven't even really dove into like songwriting or top lining or anything like that. And to start work on songs is like, I feel like it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse a little bit. But that's just my opinion. You can feel free to write. Obviously, you can feel free to write and get once again, get feedback from the group all day long about stuff. And I'm happy to chime in, but the main focus of things will be just getting the target set right now is what we're mostly focused on, is because it's really like the most important thing when you're starting out. And we're gonna definitely go down the list of like things that we're looking for in terms of we're tending to want to write about with this kind of stuff, but you're also already kind of starting to assemble that as well when you're finding these references, you're figuring out what your target is. You're going to see what the themes are. The themes are not like huge secrets to anybody. But, you know, we are happy to share what we know about like what people tend to look for. And you're going to get, as you continue down this road, you're going to learn what are the things that get used a lot. So don't sweat it. On 5-year-old songs, wow, even protected songs. Good. I'm not sure. 5-year-old songs, wow, even, I'm not sure what the question is there, but or what the comment is there, but mentioned the other day. Okay, we got that one. Oh, I see. Well, it's I mean, that can be a thing too, where like she's asking if her album was released in 2006 and it hasn't received much airplay. I mean, you could always literally just take it off of Spotify or whatever. You could just take it down, and it would, if nobody's really heard it that much, then it might as well be unreleased, because if people can't find it. I think that's something like, I've seen that as well, where it's like it's either unreleased or it's like kind of unrecognized or something like that. I can't remember what the exact wording of it is, but I think at the end of the day, if you have something from 2006 that's like relevant to sync today, there's no reason why you couldn't find a market for it. But the question is, what is it that you have from 2006 that's relevant right now? So I think that's the big question right there. So until you know the answer to that, then I think there's a bunch of questions you could ask around it. If you could speak of different types, nuances of different sync contract offers, I'd be super appreciative. So different sync contract offers, are you talking about like sync deals, or are you talking about representation deals? Because there's differences. It's a pretty lengthy conversation talking about the kind of the business side of contracts and licensing. So maybe later on, maybe if you could just comment it and I'll get to it later. Just ask whether it's like about the actual like placements that you land, or if it's like representation deals. I can talk about either one of those probably for a little bit. And then we'll definitely go over that in more detail as the course unfolds, of course. I was wondering if being uncategorizable but catchy is detrimental. Well, I think that I was wondering if being uncategorizable but catchy is detrimental versus being clearly in a genre. Well, I think if your music is like really catchy and good and unique, I think it's great, but it kind of defies genre. The trick can be, though, sometimes like what makes a song catchy to some people or to a larger audience can be that it has certain characteristics to it that people are used to in a genre. So if that makes sense, it's like, in a way, genre is like a language. So if you're in the hip hop genre, you're going to be speaking a certain language to the people that you are to your audience. If you are in like an indie rock genre or subgenre of indie rock, you're going to be speaking the language of that. But if people can't tell what your language is, it might be hard for them to understand what you're saying in a way, if that makes sense. It might be harder for people to know where they can use it. But I think there's always exceptions. There's always cool tracks that kind of, it's a tough question, but I think it's better to be in a bucket and at least have a genre that people are like, oh yeah, that sounds like it's kind of in that genre. At least that, I think, for it to be like really uncategorizable is, I'm not sure what that even sounds like. But it sounds cool. I want to hear it. Let's see. Stems, for anybody who's wondering, it's like individual files for individual tracks in the session. So for example, if I was printing the stems for a song, and it's usually done for stems, they're usually done in groups, mixed groups. So, unless you're getting really granular, but at the end of the day too, some of that can factor into like the budget that you're paying the producer, because it can sometimes take a long time to print out a ton of stems and stuff like that. And if it's something where it's like, it could be like half a day kind of job if it's if you're asking for like really specific types of stems. But usually you'll get like a drum group, or you'll get like the bass stuff, or you'll get like the synths and guitars kind of separate, and vocals, background vocals, kind of all like separately in different wave files. And then they're also run through the master chain. So when you add them together, they kind of sound that they're at like the relative level of the, if you like added all the tracks together, they would sound kind of like at the relative level of the finished master. And I apologize if any of that goes over your head. For any of this production stuff that goes over your head, don't worry about it. We're going to be repeating a bunch of this stuff. People are going to ask similar questions. We're going to cover some of this stuff as well, just directly. So don't worry about we're going to throw so much information at you in this 6 months that sometimes you're going to be like, what was that? What was that? But it's all going to slowly, it's going to your overall awareness of everything is just going to increase, and you're going to get more knowledgeable all around. It's going to help your game all around, but just be patient with it. You don't have to understand everything right off the bat. We're not asking for that. So, so just be patient with yourself with that too. About stems, would they prefer each separate piece of the drum kit? Yeah, so usually it's like they usually want like the drum kit, or like, you know, sometimes they want the kick separated out or something like that. Sometimes there's a specific drum piece that they don't want in the mix. Like maybe they just don't like the shaker. So they're like, can you give me a mix without the shaker? Sometimes they get picky like that. Any advice as to how to go about cross collaborating between producers that use different DAWs? That all the DAWs talk to each other in a certain way, in that you can always print stems. You can always print like the tracks that you're working on and send them over to a producer who's using a different DAW, as long as you do it right and you export them correctly and then they import them correctly, you're not going to have any problems. So yeah, there's definitely, it's definitely possible to co-collaborate. Also, there's just, yeah, I think that's it. You know, mostly just has to do with exporting audio and importing it. I'll answer a couple more questions. Then I think we're going to listen to a couple songs, and then we'll call it a day. Is there placement for children's songs? Well, yeah, there's a lot of children's programming out there. So the answer is yes. Stems are yeah, people are explaining that. Thank you by the way for everybody who helps out with explaining stuff. Can you please give it? Okay, so definition of a top line is the vocal, but it's basically the lyrics and the melody that are over the top of an instrument, over the top of an instrumental. The vocal plus the lyrics, which the vocal is like the melody of it. So it's melody plus lyrics is top line. The email address for questions is hello@catchthemoonmusic.com. It's not catchthemoon.com. It's catchthemoonmusic.com. hello@catchthemoonmusic.com. Toppling. That's funny. Any advice on approaching co-writing? Actually, Kathy's going to talk a lot about that. So, we're definitely going to talk a lot about like what you need to bring into a co-write and like, the kind of the spirit you need to bring into it. And, that's a long talk, something that we probably can't go into here on this call, but it's a good question. And it's definitely stuff that we'll cover in the course. You meant representation for sync placement deals. Okay. So, typical deals, when you're talking about to like an agency or like a pitch person or something like that, it's typically a couple of things. Typically it's like a split of whatever comes in from the master sync fee. So for example, Catch the Moon, we typically take something like 35% of the master sync fee that comes in on a placement when we land a placement for you. That's, some places take more, a lot of places take more, a lot of places take up to 50%. We have a pretty artist-friendly deal. We only take the master, only take 35% of the master. We don't touch the publishing at all. There's a publishing side to upfront payments that happen with things. So your publishing does factor in when there's upfront fees that come in off of a placement. So, for example, with like Catch the Moon, you wouldn't be losing any of the publishing money, but you would you'd give us 35% of the master sync fee for landing you the placement. But there's other types of deals too, where for example, like there's some companies where they take none of your master sync stuff, but they take 100% of your publishing. There's things where it's the total opposite. There's things where it's like they take 50% of your master sync and they take 50% of your publishing. It really is all over the board. There's some places where they retitle your songs and they take all your publishing, all kinds of deals. So yeah, those are some of like the main parameters. And also the parameters are usually like, there's usually a term when it comes to these things, like usually a fairly short term. A lot of deals are for like 1 year or 2 years. And there's exclusive and non-exclusive. So exclusive means that they have the exclusive rights to negotiate any deal for sync for whatever songs are in the deal. So if you were to go and hustle something, they would be the ones who have to eventually negotiate the deal, which is possible. It's possible to like go out. It's possible to have an exclusive deal with somebody and then kind of like hit them up and say, hey, is it cool if I go and hustle some stuff? Can you like basically act as admin if I land a deal for us? And that could be okay with some people. Some people are cool with that because that's just like could potentially be more money for them. So that could be good for you. Also, non-exclusive is that just means that, you know, they have a non-exclusive right to represent your stuff and pitch your stuff. Our deals at Catch the Moon are non-exclusive. We do have a few people that we're exclusive with, but our student deals are non-exclusive, which means that like you're free to go out and pitch your song elsewhere if you like. I wouldn't suggest going and signing like 20 non-exclusive deals, because what that does is it basically just like you're going to have people like that could potentially get your song from like 15 different places, and they're like, who's representing them? So it can look a little weird. So you don't want to shotgun approach it if you're looking for a non-exclusive deal. But you know, it's okay to like. I have some songs that are repped by a few different places, but I definitely wouldn't go and have like the same song repped by like 20 places. I think that's a little unprofessional. Let's see. Hopefully that helps out with that. We're going to be, once again, we'll be going through all this stuff in more detail. That's definitely stuff that's going on later on. Yeah. So 30%, I mean, there's different rates. The rate that we have on most of our deals is 35. But I'm sure there's some songs that we have signed in our catalog that are 30 as well. So let's see, make sure there's any other questions. Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think it's good for you to pick if you're somebody who does a lot of different genres. I think it's better to pick one and really focus on that, and do the best you can with that. The thing is, once you finish this process once, you'll be able to go through this process again in any genre that you wish. So if for whatever reason this EP that you create in a genre and doesn't get you the result that you're looking for, you could always try a different genre, but you'll have the tools and you'll understand the process that we go through and we suggest doing when you're creating something, so that you can then try that out with a different genre if you wish. But I do think it's like it's tough if you do like 5 different things, it can be a little distracting. Publishing, it's just the publishing of the song. So it would take a really long time to explain all the intricacies of music business, in terms of like what types of royalties there are and different legal entities when it comes to like how a song is legally perceived and like just the legal entity of a song. But songs, the simplest way I describe it is like a song has a master. It's the physical recording of it. Then it also has writing and publishing. So, and there's 100% of writing and 100% of publishing, but in a way it's actually 50-50, 50%, 50%, and that constitutes 100. But there's like 50% you can split. You can kind of think of those as separate 100s that are kind of mixed together. It's really complicated at first, but the publishing side there's money that comes in on the publishing side when things are placed a lot of the time. And if that's the case, then you would receive royalties, money that would come in on the sync. Part of that money would go to the publishing, and then you would get a piece of that, depending on like how much of the publishing you actually owned. So in that case, you would take whatever of the publishing that you have in that case, and if it was a deal with Catch the Moon, we don't touch the publishing. We just forward that on to you. So. How valid is the 90-day calendar in the modules? For sure, you could, but we aren't going to be following the 90-day calendar in what we're doing in this course. So just keep that in mind. But that is the materials that are in the website are there, and I'm sure that they're valuable. We've used them in the past, and students have had a lot of success with them. But those are older materials, and it's not the not the day by day like that we're going to be going through with this course. So just don't read the materials and then come to the group and say, hey, why are you guys talking about different stuff than it says in the modules? It's because we're not using the modules as a guide. We're now walking you through a more updated curriculum. So that's what's going on there. And yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. And there's, for anybody who wants to take a deep dive in the legal aspects of thing, there's always the Passman book. There's always dummies books for the music business and kind of understanding the basics of just like what the legal entities of songs are and all that stuff. So how much interest is there in the orchestral classical genre, jazz, swing? So that's potentially 4 different genres. I mean, I think that there's interest in all those genres to a certain extent. You know, I see people asking for jazz music. I see people asking for stuff that kind of has like a swing kind of feel to it. But yeah, it's just that I would say like what music is getting used is really what, if you make really high quality jazz music, there's probably going to be, if it's the right type of jazz music, there's probably going to be a market for it. Most of the jazz music that gets used is like jazz music that's like the most popular jazz music of all time, or jazz music that's really uplifting and has like a fun, like nostalgic kind of feel to it. Or it's just really well written and the vocalist is just killer. Like, so that kind of stuff is definitely, there's certainly a place that you could pitch that kind of stuff. TV shows, you know, some ads look to use jazz music. Yep. But I think that whatever you choose, you should base that off of your research and figuring out what is getting used as much as possible, and kind of tailor what it is you're doing. You know, if there's TV shows that use a lot of jazz music, find out what those TV shows are, see exactly what kinds of jazz cues they're using, and then kind of build music around it that kind of fits that. Because they might be looking for a very specific type of jazz music. Like jazz is like such a wide term. There's so many subgenres of jazz that, like, you know, you could be making music in a subgenre of jazz that is not really used much. So just buyer beware there in terms of like buying into like, I'm going to do music in this genre, but I'm not going to do the research to find out what stuff is actually getting used. It's like you might find yourself in trouble if you do that. Yeah, there you go. Like I said, jazz music's getting used for sure. I definitely hear it all the time, especially like the classic hits. They're always asking for like alts for that kind of stuff. In fact, I had one that was kind of like jazzy number. They were looking for alts for Tony Bennett. It's kind of stuff. They definitely look for that kind of stuff. It's not unusual. It's a jazzy number. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna listen to a couple songs here, and then we're gonna call it a day. But yeah, let's hop in, and I'm probably, if anybody has a song, I think I'm not gonna pull from that list again. Does anybody if anybody has a song they want to share? Okay, Patrice, we're gonna roll with you since I saw you drop it in there. But give me just a sec here. SoundCloud's a little funky. It just kind of auto plays stuff. So we probably won't hear the song right from the top of the song. We'll hear it like half a second in. But let's go ahead and open this up. So when I just want to prepare everybody when I'm like, we did a really fun listening session last night. So it's going to be the same kind of deal. I'm just going to be listening to the song for any kind of like just my feedback on things and just, you know, just give you my honest opinion on things. And if there's anything that you want to say, Patricia, are you on it's Patrice? Is it, oh, cool. Is there anything you want to say about the song before I give it a spin? Sorry, I can't hear you. Let me unmute you. I just unmuted you.
Oh, so hello everyone. So excited. This song actually was done. I had asked the question earlier. I write a lot to tracks that are pre-recorded. So obviously I know I can't those. But this is when I wrote the melody and the lyrics to. And so it's kind of, and it's a track, it's actually Rihanna's acoustic. I forget if it was like Diamonds or something. I'm kind of wondering if you think even I should go what I've done with producers that I've worked with in the past has gone to them and been like, hey, here's a song, I wrote it to this, but I want to recreate it with my vibe, and here's some other stuff. So I just want to kind of see what you think about the lyrics and the melody.
Okay. Lyrics.
And if I should actually make it.
Cool. I'll give it a spin. I'll go ahead and mute you now. Actually, I can't see you here. Do you mind muting yourself? Sorry, I can't. Thank you. Thank you. Here, I can probably just open it up. Hang on a sec. Mute all. Okay, thanks. Thanks so much for that. By the way, thank you everybody for being so good about keeping your microphone muted and stuff. It really helps to kind of keep the from just breaking down into total chaos. So here we go. I'm going to share it with everybody. I like to talk to myself sometimes as I'm going through this stuff. Here we go. Sharing the screen. Here we go. Patrice's song, Seasons. Something sounds really off here. Hang on a sec. Where's chat? Yeah, there's noise. Hang on a sec. Let me hopefully it's okay. Let me just try this out. I wonder if that has to do with the stream. That shouldn't have to do with the stream. Is that just the track? Let me just test to make sure that other audio is playing okay. Oh, weird. Yeah, it looks like Zoom is actually interfering with things. So this happens actually, this is the first time this has ever happened live on a call, but it's probably has to do with the streaming where there's just like, it's like there's some type of, it's just having a hard time like handling the audio for some reason. Change your small rate sample rate. You mean in Zoom? Let's see if we can try that. Yeah, I don't want to, unfortunately, I really don't want to just sit here and troubleshoot this while we're doing a call. So we'll probably have to, unfortunately, it looks like the audio is kind of crapped out now. I'll tell you what, this song, and I will give this song a listen on my system, and I will post my feedback to the group as a response to the thread. For once the replay is put up on this. So yeah, we're going to do that because like, I don't want to like troubleshoot this with the group. This is the first time this has ever happened. I've been doing this for like a couple of months on these Zoom calls. So it's the first time this has actually ever happened like on the fly here. Apologize for any delay there. I'm going to look into like, see if there's any settings that we can do to improve kind of what might be causing this, but it could just be like, every once in a while, programs just do this kind of stuff. I bet if I rebooted the call, it would probably work or, but it's no big deal. I'll give it a spin and I'll post some feedback in the group. And yeah, so, as far as that goes, hopefully, I answered a ton of questions. Let's keep it going. If you have any questions, just feel free to drop them into the group. You can always tag me on something. I always try to respond to as many things as I can. And I'm sure that people in the group will be super helpful too. And maybe even answer the question before I have it answered. So, but it's really great to see everybody and really great to have all your questions. And I've just been having so much fun with this group already. There's so much talent in here. You're asking all the right kinds of questions. So just keep doing that. And there's another call that I'm doing next week. I'm really looking forward to that. And we've got the office hours as well. And Kathy's going to be on call with you again sometime soon here. So we're all really looking forward to just seeing how this group continues to unfold. And thank you for showing up in a big way to allow this to all happen. So we're really excited and I can't wait for the next time we get to do this. And in the meantime, I'll see you on the group. Have a great rest of your day.